I've been ready from the jump. Tell me anything but never tell me that I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm on. You can bet I've been above. You can never see me like I'm John. Seen it on the song. Yeah, we kicking in the whip, boy, then vroom vroom. Invisible like Bitcoin, but all around we taking over the world. I'm making home with the girl, head to tail like a flip coin. You can take it how you want. I've been up having fun. Yeah, baby, this ain't a disjoint. I ain't famous, I'm a boss. I've been up stacking sauce. The issue they can hit, boy.
What's up, everybody? My name is Clue. This is the Kent Farm Podcast. I'm here with Tony and John. How you doing, boys?
Good. What's going on, boys?
That's the way. That's the way. Now we have a very special birthday in the house. John, how you doing?
Yeah, it was a lot better than last year. I was obviously we were locked down this time last year, so it was good to be able to get out the house and see a few people. I actually recreated, the sad Narcos meme of what's his face that's just sort of looking in his face
on the swing. On the swing.
Yeah, I recreated that last year, so I have to flick it around to you guys.
Please do.
Yeah,
we got a happy birthday in the chat for you already.
Thanks,
That's
man.
what we like to see. It feels good. Also, John, just because you got a bit of showing off going, I'm loving the whole sleeveless vibe, the tat showing.
Birthday. So the wife did good things for me beforehand. I thought I'd chip in and stick around for that. So I've been gone in, had a shower and changed and everything. So sort of Jim the Salvo and straight into it.
He's feeling good. Yeah, feeling good. Wanted to jump straight in to show off the arms.
yeah. I've used the 50mm, so you don't have to see too much of me tonight.
No, that's good. And I mean, we've had a fairly big week. Hey, there's been a lot of things drop, and I mean, where do we want to start? I think the big one. Oh, you know what? Let's get straight into it. We'll talk some basic stuff. Black Adam has just started filming. So, I mean, how good does that feel? I mean, finally, after so long, like looking at it, I think The Rock was cast to play Black Adam in 2007.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's wild. Which is nuts. And like 2007, it wasn't really talked about until like 2014. But
so that is
even
then, was Iron Man was 2008?
Yeah.
So he was cast before then. I didn't even know it was that far away.
The Rock was cast as Black Adam before the MCU existed. How weird is that to think?
You know what's wild? Like, if he had joined back then, he would have actually probably suited it better because he actually had that whole receding hairline. Like,
True.
A little bit thinner and whatnot. So, we got there.
And now he's just an absolute beefcake.
Yeah, I just really wonder why, like, how it took so long. Like, what was The Rock doing back in 2007? Like, when did Gridiron Gang come out? Was that around 2006? So he was probably still quite new around the. He wasn't obviously as big as a star as he was now. But, geez,
he's still doing things though. Like, he was doing things earlier. Like, I just watched. I'm rewatching That 70s Show, and the first season was in like '98, and he was in an episode playing Rocky Johnson, his dad, in the 70s.
Yeah.
But he was like, that was 1998, and he was I think 99 was when he was like properly start. I think he did his first like feature film. But yeah, he did. Yeah. Was that 99? Scorpion King?
Yeah.
Or early 2000s?
No, yeah, it's early 2000s.
Yeah.
So I remember following that because the Rock was my favorite wrestler sort of growing up. No one could sell a Stone Cold Stunner as well as The Rock, and he obviously had the most electrifying move in sports entertainment. So
there you go.
No, it was actually Gridiron Gang. So have you guys seen Gridiron Gang?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's probably like it was his first sort of more serious role, but he wasn't like Scorpion King. He was a bit of a really glorified cameo, but that was actually quite an emotional. One of my favorite sports movies, actually. So
like a Coach Carter.
They haven't seen it.
Yeah, right. Okay, Coach Carter. What a vibe that movie is. Anyone who hasn't seen Coach Carter, get out and check that. Samuel L. Jackson.
Our deepest fear is that we are not quit.
I mean, I'm thinking back on that. Like, Channing Tatum was in that before he was anyone. Coach Carter. That had a good cast from memory. Like,
I don't think I've even heard of that movie.
Coach Carter, really, Samuel L.
Yeah,
Jackson.
yeah,
Check that
okay.
shit. That is such a good film.
Yeah. No, I was
yeah.
bloody was revisiting the original Mighty Ducks the other day. It's such a good movie.
Is that because there's the Mighty Ducks series out now? Like,
yeah, I haven't started it, and I saw someone post a photo of like some of the original cast members. I wasn't too sure if that was just a photo or if they were actually in it. So I was a little bit skeptical when I
think it's supposed to be like, I think it is. I think it's supposed to be like a Cobra Kai sort of thing where it's like...
Well, Emilio Estevez is in it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so.
I just want to point out, Ash couldn't make it in today because he has a cold. So do with that what you will, audience.
Get well soon, mate.
Get well soon,
Man
Ash.
flu, it's the most, it's the most dangerous thing anyone can get.
That's right. That's right. So let's just move on. From obviously we've had the Black Adam news. I know Green Lantern is supposed to be around the corner, but a couple of interesting articles or a few interesting articles came out this week. It sort of seemed like the Pandora's box had opened. All of the Warner Brothers sort of back end, suddenly any gag order that anyone had on Warner Brothers has just stopped. Ray Fisher's come out, Chris Terrio's come out, and Fabian Wagner's come out all this week. So did you guys get a chance to read these articles? Obviously, for those of us who have been like paying close attention, we know a lot of this Ray Fisher stuff, but how did you guys feel looking through it?
The long reads.
It's
like little essays. Yeah. It kind of all popped off right after that last hit piece on Ray, or not hit piece, but it was like when they said, "Oh yeah, no, he doesn't actually have an NDA that he can't, just disclose all the stuff. So like, why doesn't he?" So, he waited for his time, and when it came for the time, and there was a lot. It was jam packed with a lot of instances. It's just pull up a couple quotes, man. It's just some of the shit that went down.
Yeah,
my favorite was the Jeff Johns sympathizer saying, "Oh yeah, he's not racist. Like back in 2000 and something, he like helped write Batgirl, who was a person of that community. So therefore, he's not." So it's like, come on. Man.
Well, that's the thing with it. Like, I'm just wondering, maybe it's not that hard to be a PR person in Hollywood because it was very structured response. So it's Jeff Johns, who is part Lebanese. It's like, come on, like that's just anyone can sort of see through that. It was just so terribly. I don't know. I wonder if anyone read it and were like, "Oh, so he's part Lebanese, so yeah, it can't be racist."
I mean, I would also like to point out from this, while we're talking on the Jeff Johns piece here, Jeff Johns had this article come out. Jeff Johns pens another Arab character into the so this was basically Ray Fisher's come out. He's talked about Jeff Johns. He specifically said a lot of things, essentially going, here's the evidence that I have of what was said to me that I've deemed racist of Jeff Johns. And then Jeff Johns has been, PR teams come out and said, he's not racist. He's part Lebanese and he had a black wife. He was married to a black woman. So, which is just a lot of just bullshit, really. And then within an hour, so they've obviously, the fact that Kim Masters had reached out to them for quotes meant that they were aware that this was coming. Within the hour of this article coming out, we see this article. Jeff Johns pens another Arab character into the comics world. And I'd like to point out a few quotes from here that I thought were interesting. Some of you may also be aware of John's Arab-American roots and his deep connection with Metro Detroit's immigrant history. The fact that he's like, I'm not racist because I'm Lebanese and also from Detroit, they really made it, really tried to put that in.
And then saying, I'm not racist because I'm not racist.
Exactly. But the main character, Tariq Geiger, is also half Arab, like Johns. In fact, this is the second time Johns has penned an Arab comic book character. Anyway, going through a little bit more. He speaks on a few of his Detroit connections, which I found were really interesting. But there is one, and this is a longer article. Now that I'm looking at it, this is a longer article that I read. I found one that has taken a few quotes.
I must have missed this one. What publication is this one?
Well, this one's from the Arab American News.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I didn't pick that edition up last week. I totally forgot.
Oh my goodness.
There was one. Here we go. One that I thought was really interesting was Johns, who is half Lebanese on his father's side, was born and raised in Detroit and its neighboring suburbs. He graduated from high school at Clarkson, attended Michigan State University. Johns' middle name is Mereb. Johns' father's family has been in Detroit. John's grandmother lived in the city till her passing at age 102. Quote from Jeff Johns. She was the one that taught my family how to make traditional foods like kibbeh and grape leaves. Now, excuse my pronunciation. I'm not familiar with these products, or grape leaves. But kibbeh, I'm not sure whether that's correct. But this is what got me. He said, whenever we'd go there for Thanksgiving, we'd have those Arab dishes with our turkey. And something about that, those Arab dishes with our turkey, it just, it sounded gross. Not the Arab dishes, but just the phrasing.
It's turkey.
You know what? No, not
timing.
not even that.
Was
just
so dumb.
the timing, the phrasing, the fact that it's like, oh yeah, we'd have those Arab dishes. Like, it was really like, and it's obvious to all of us who were paying attention. This was a direct piece to basically be like, here's an article coming out saying that your client is racist. Here's an article that says, hey, we're inventing an Arab American character. And also, I grew up Arab American. One of my friends read the article and she said, it sounds like he's making it out like he had Arab dishes once a year at Thanksgiving. She's like, I'm white as, and I eat Middle Eastern food more than he does. Which I thought was pretty funny.
It's all just, I don't know, just really bad PR. I finally got around to listening to
it's bullshit.
Ray Fisher jumping on the Faruqi brothers comic book debate a few weeks ago now, and sort of asking about the updates about it. He's like, well, it's obviously very hard to prove racist intention unless someone actively comes out and goes, oh yeah, no, that was because I'm racist. No one's going to do that. But he's like, well, just look at the evidence of what was cut. You know, some evidence. You look at, the actor played Ryan Shaw, and everyone was sort of a person of color who got cut. And then it doesn't help that you've got people from the show Krypton coming out also, and it's all in the court of what the public opinion at the moment. And the evidence is pretty there. Whether it was, not intentionally, but whether it was looking at that as like, we want these people out because they're people of color, or if they're looking at, we reckon that more Caucasian people gravitate towards this. Either way, it's still wrong. But
you have to look at
a bad look.
You have to look at there's a few points in this. Like, if the quote was said, as Ray has stated, that he has heard secondhand, obviously, from someone who was in the room, we can't have an angry black man at the center of our movie. Plus the fact that Jeff Johns and Joss have removed pretty much every person of color. Plus the fact that Ray has said the point that tipped me over the edge was them trying to color grade somebody's skin color to be lighter. Like, that's
that was the
all of that scene. Stuff. Yeah, all of that stuff is just fucked up. And you look at all of these factors, and it's like, yes, we can't from one individual thing say it's racist intentions. You look at all that, and then you look at the Krypton thing, and tell me that isn't racist, or tell me that isn't, there was no intention. Not only that, but I'd like to point out that Scott and Tim on the DC Film Squadcast, I was listening to them today, and they pointed out that Johnson's quote saying, "Oh yeah, we couldn't cast a black main character in Krypton as Superman's grandfather because people would expect Henry Cavill or someone who looks like Henry Cavill. So no, we can't make him black." But then apparently they had a black Zod or Zod's grandfather, and the guy who played Zod looked nothing like Michael Shannon. So it's like, well,
yeah, but like
you did it in one.
There's also no natural births on Krypton if you want to go within the
Exactly.
law, So like it's not like one person comes from the flesh of another person or anything. They're like made in like those little chambers with a codex.
Exactly.
So it's just a lot of making excuses for
exactly.
no reason.
I just want to quickly shout out to Fatima here. She is lucky enough to be hosting JusticeCon this weekend.
Wow.
I'm not sure. I know that you are hosting one. I'm not sure what panel specifically, but check it out. They released the panels. It's very, very cool to see.
Saw the panel come out, just a few hours ago.
Yeah.
The day. And
so congratulations.
Got a pretty busy weekend. Next week, I've seen that schedule. I'm like, oh man, there's so much.
Yeah, I know.
Stacked.
I mean, as I said, for me, I'm getting married on Friday, and then I'm going to be busy for a week and a half after that. So
that's too much information, man.
Yeah, well, straight into it. We're going. I'm coming to visit you guys. I'm coming to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that I'm definitely going to be scanning through and trying to find as many watch as many of these interviews as I can. I mean, I got to say personally, I love the fact that they're doing a SnyderVerse day and then an Army of the Dead day, because I will point out the person who said today, Snyder fans only care about his DC films. They're not going to watch Army of the Dead. Like, fuck that shit. I'm so keen for Army of the Dead. Bring on the Army of the Dead day. Bring on SnyderVerse day, and I will catch up when I can.
WB just created an audience for Netflix, so they're just going to go, thank you. I'll take that.
I'd also like to point out that Hash Flags today gave a little Army of the Dead logo for Zack Snyder. # Zack Snyder cool. Now, that's just iconic. The dude is an icon, Jaden Smith. But awesome.
I see what you did there.
Yeah,
I like that tweet. It was like Zack's not just of the moment; he embodies the whole era of of movie making.
100%. Just going back to this racism discussion earlier, Zach pointed out there was some stuff that came out of Superman and Lois as well. Correct. Yeah. Nadria Tucker had said after doing the first few scripts, had asked Jeff or some higher ups there that a couple of things: add some black people who weren't just the villain, which is very reasonable. I don't like
that.
Such a
white town, isn't it?
And I really don't like that the whoever it was, and I'm not going to try and remember who it was from reading that article, but somebody in the higher up said we would have to ship black people in as if to Toronto. There's no black people in Toronto. So even as extras, she's like, can you get some extras so it's not like and I get that it's like Kansas, but come on. There would be black people in Kansas. I am sure.
It's supposed to be like a future Clark story, right? Within kids in the future. So, like, is that the kind of outlook of a world in the future that we're trying to shape?
I mean, that's Jeff Johns' ideal world, apparently.
Oasis, yeah.
So the color grading, whack, agreed. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of this sort of stuff that you wonder what the hell they're doing over there and how they can, in their right minds, even consider the fact that. And I mean, I know they got rid of Jeff Johns. I know they got rid of Joss Whedon, but at this point, how are they still actively going against Ray? Like,
you hear some of the other guys talking about that. Jeff Johns has so many credits to so many different properties. You don't know how many people are sort of tied, like financially tied to him and don't want to speak out. Like, you go to a comic book shop and 90% of the DC stuff in there will be linked to Jeff Johns in some capacity. So, it just goes.
One thing I'll say on that is, Jeff Johns is a great writer, but that fucking dude has restarted the universe so many times. You cannot tell a coherent, long-form story. It's so apparent that in everything he starts, he just
goes, "Oh shit!"
Makes a mess. Yeah, so like, and there's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of smoke everywhere he's been. Same with Joss, and you know, I don't think it's so much that people are not kind of backing Ray or like the regime's change. I think that, you know, like rightly so, he's probably playing hardball after what he just experienced, and he's like, no, I'm not going to take a cameo payment for a 2-week shoot. You're not going to kind of use that much footage of me then just to cut me down and misinterpret me again. I've learned my lesson. It's the same reason that, you know, when Jeff Johns was brought in as like the co-writer on the Batman with Ben, and like initially Ben kind of played ball and was like, yeah, Jeff Johns. By the end of it, when he was on Kimmel or like whatever other show, he didn't even refer to him by his name. He was just like, yeah, I was with this other writer. Just like, I lost interest. So it's like, it's very apparent that, you know, there's a lot of smoke everywhere these guys have been. I don't think it's so much as the whole kind of regime is still against Ray and for those guys. I just think that, you know, there's so many other politics involved that, you know, we don't know all the facts.
But it had to be just ego with Jeff. Like, look at that one article that came out years ago. How his quote was like, "Oh well, I wrote the character, so it's pretty easy to get my point across." Like, the guy just has a massive ego on him, and he's obviously think that he's never wrong about any of these characters. And even Scott from Squadcast made the point, like, if he's a writer or a key exec with some of these films, he's basing a lot of the content on his comics, so he's basically creating his own separate income, which is a massive conflict. So
correct. Terrio mentioned it is like, you should never have two writers in the same room, like, or two writers in the same room when one of them is able to make those executive decisions at the top of the food chain, because it's going to create tension, and it's going to end of the day, they're going to have a disagreement, and he's just going to swing his big dick and be like, oh, sorry guys, this is actually my story. There's no room for interpretation or originality. Let's just adapt it straight. And you know, it's just, you know,
like, what's the point of having anybody else by that point? So I mean, if we didn't already know that Jeff Johns was a prick by now, continue reading articles about him, because you know what? Fuck Jeff Johns. I won't mince words. Just like I didn't mince words the other day, John. Fuck Jeff Johns, and long bad ears look fucking stupid in live action. Sorry.
What'd you say? Long ears?
Yeah. Somebody had put in a group like, oh, if Batfleck comes back, they should do long bat ears and put all these like really long, like it would be like this and long off his head.
Can you believe people fucking just spend their whole day just putting trunks on Henry Cavill, fixing his hairline, and being like, oh, if this was just like more blue and saturated, it'd be like, really? You think
that guy who obsessively does the trunks and the curl and the hairline and the blue and then the trunks on the back. I blocked him like 6 months ago because I saw his art every day, and I was like, shut the fuck up. It doesn't matter. No trunks. This isn't a big deal.
I was rewatching Just League again, and there's some points where you're like, you know, in this movie, Batman's cape could have caused him a couple of issues. And then I just think of that scene from the Invincibles, how the costume lady's like, no capes.
And like, no more.
You never know.
Well, I mean, why do you think Nightwing did it?
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait to read Tom Taylor's Nightwing run. I'm hearing a lot of good things. Yeah,
right. On the way. I mean, so yeah, do you guys have any further points you want to make about this Ray Fisher article? Anything that, I mean, I think for us, somebody had pointed out that there wasn't necessarily a lot of new information. We knew a lot of this, but what I wanted to say is like everything that we'd seen pretty much with this before had been said by Ray, and then often some sort of like trade article, like Hollywood Reporter, Vanity Fair, Variety, Deadline, someone like that would dilute it because WB would put out a "that's not what happened" or a "Ray is just making up shit" or a Frosty the Snowman announcement, like shit like that, to just try and exactly. So what I felt was, though a lot of this information isn't necessarily new, it was a little more detailed, but it was from a direct source at the Hollywood Reporter And not only that, but she specifically took the time to mention that Warner Brothers didn't want her to release the article, which just tells me that you know it's got legs. There's backing, and it just makes it more reliable now for those who maybe didn't believe him before because they believe everything that's in the trades. This shows that the trades aren't always 100% accurate, but yeah, gives a bit more dynamic to this story anyway.
Well, I mean, one thing that was quite surprising is that they got one of the head of communications or PR for Warner Media, and her quote was, "I specifically told you all not to say anything about Ray Fisher." So they got her to say that. So that was directed from a PR person, yet people still do it. Like, can you imagine being her walking in one day and going, all right, so I fucking said one thing, and you didn't do it. And then the separate point, Kim Masters tweeted out saying Warner Media didn't want us to release this article. Yeah. And there was someone going at her going, something about, but Jeff Johns, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, would you like to clarify this? And she's just gone, quote tweeted, no. And I'm like, great kid. So good.
So good. Yeah, I think the fact they didn't want to, and that quote was interesting too, that she said, I told them not to act, and then some people acted emotionally and decided to jump on it. So that was clearly talking on the September 4 hit piece that Ray is often referred to. There's been a couple that are really noticeable that really, really noticeable, really aggressive, but the fact that it's just made up bullshit to try and discredit him, which again we knew, but the fact that the head of communications at Warner Brothers was like, I told them not to do this, and they did it anyway, just proves how full of shit they actually are.
Yeah, what else are they keeping under the wraps right now?
Exactly.
The only thing I'll say is that he did bring some receipts. It's instances of things that were said. And then the whole thing with the investigation about how, who the hell was actually conducting it? Why weren't they being upfront with it? What was their background? And it was the token one black person image, and all the other kind of white execs weren't shown because it was probably people that have worked with them before. And, you know, there's always the kind of keep the business safe at all costs.
Yeah, and the fact that they pulled the name off the website. So for those who were unfamiliar, Ray had asked about when doing the initial investigation, when they said he wasn't cooperating, that was not true. But when they were doing the initial investigation, Ray was talking to someone for a while before finding out that he wasn't necessarily a third party. When he asked who they were and who they were reporting to, the person named a black executive that Ray looked up, and then this person's then come out and said they looked it up on the website and named someone that they'd never met because it was a black executive.
Didn't happen. Imagine that shit didn't happen, and he spilled his guts to whoever that person was. They would have paid off all those people. I mean, those that would have taken it, and then this would have just been lost.
Exactly. And look, that's what they were trying to do, and it's disgusting to see. And I've seen a couple of people on Twitter say, look, the industry, this happens a lot. People need to be aware that it's not just Warner Brothers. There are a lot of studios that do this sort of thing.
I mean, how long did Harvey Weinstein get away with that shit?
Exactly. And the fact that, that this has gone on for such a long time. On that Harvey Weinstein stuff, I'd like to point out, I don't know, did you guys ever watch Entourage?
Nah.
So there's a character. There's a character in it. Now, this is 2004, 2005. There's a character in it, Harvey Weingard. Now, he's Harvey Weingard because they asked Harvey Weinstein to play himself, and he was like, fuck no, I'm not doing that. And they just cast this guy who looked like him, and he had a reputation for being aggressive and basically being like, I'll fucking kill you and all that sort of shit. And when all the stuff came out, apparently Deadline called Doug Ellen, the creator of Entourage, and said, you were the first one to report and demonstrate that Harvey was this horrible person. Why did you leave out all the sexual harassment stuff? And he goes, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. This is This is 2005. I just knew this guy had a reputation. I thought it in the movie industry. I thought it'd be funny, which it was because he ended up putting this character based on this guy. The guy found out, called him and said, "I'll fucking kill you. You'll never work in the industry again," which he then wrote into a script that the guy says to E later in one of the following episodes, which is pretty funny. But yeah, it's exactly that. I mean, all of this stuff, and I'd like to just go back to what Aaron said here about the Krypton stuff. How much of a fucking moron do you think Jeff Johns feels like saying that? And the guy who he turned down, like one of the guys that they were looking at to play the role, who was black and turned down, was the guy from Bridgerton, which is now a massive runaway success. This guy's like a household name suddenly. And he was supposed to, or heavily being eyed to be on Krypton, but Jeff Johns was like, nah.
His grandfather.
I mean, there's just a lot of shit. And I think, you know, as I said, racist intention or not, you can't necessarily prove it.
It happened.
But how do you play that off? Like, at this point, it's Jeff Johns saying shit like, I can't be racist because my shadow is black.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think it's the words getting out there because, you know, Zack Snyder's Justice League was really positive. Yeah, we've got mainstream audience going, why wasn't this released? And there's bloody army of people going, well, here's a bit of an education piece as to, you know, what happened, and you know, that's what's happening.
That's right.
So who came out next? Was it was Terrio and then
just going on next, we're going to discuss this Vanity Fair article that came out. Justice League screenwriter Chris Terrio is super pissed off. So, I mean, just off the top, for those who missed it, it's essentially Chris Terrio with no holds barred. He went pretty hard on Warner Brothers, his experience there, and the title of the article is pretty accurate, I'll say. And he's gone all the way back from Batman vs. Superman. So any points off the top of your head, boys, that jumped out at you?
This is a funny review.
Yeah. Well, I was actually surprised that, he was pretty upfront with not liking the name of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, Zach wasn't 100% sold on it, because he's just such a nice guy, but he would never sort of can his movie. I mean, I'm easy with it. Like, I'm not that diehard passionate.
I get what they mean though. Like what he was saying, like it sounds like a PR person said, if we put Batman and Superman in, it's hitting the top of the Google.
Equals box office.
Yeah.
SEO search. Yeah, it's dumb.
And like personally, I've been saying for a while, I would love to see after Zack Snyder had Zack Snyder's Justice League, I would like to see a rebranding where it's Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, Zack Snyder's Dawn of Justice, Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's like ideally, like I think that would be really cool to see. And I feel like the Dawn of Justice aspect was probably closer to Zack, and then they were like, now slap the main characters' names on the front.
Yeah.
What was the main intention of that movie? It was, you know, to get to where you're going, which is Justice League down the road. So I get the Dawn of Justice. I'm not the biggest fan of it necessarily, but I think another point was that rather than it being Batman versus Superman, at least it being Batman v Superman, it kind of takes away from the fact that it's like to lower your expectations if you're thinking just all out brawl. This is all the movie is, just that big brawl. It's the big beating the shit out of each other, because there's so much more within that movie going on.
Yeah.
You know? So I think the V kind of lessens the versus aspect. But you know,
that's I would have to agree. It sounds more like a legal battle than a than a fight. But
the one out there being he said the theatrical cut was an act of vandalism. That Zach may be too much of a gentleman to actually say that. I really like that one in hand with the unnamed executive who said no one wanted to admit how much of a piece of shit it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess like the interesting part was him going back to the original stuff and discussing. I do like this question. Is it true you were banned from the Justice League set? I wouldn't say I was banned. The studio's attitude was, we'll take it from here. I was frankly shocked when I saw the Snyder Cut and how much of the original script was shot. So, yeah, I found that's interesting.
Like,
yeah.
And that brought him in, not necessarily Warner Brothers that ever wanted anything to do with him initially.
Yeah, exactly. And, with them sort of turning away from Ben as well. It makes it hard. I mean, you look at all that and go, they were stepping away from Ben, stepping away from Chris, and I think Chris is a fantastic writer. Like Zack Snyder's Justice League proved that, and I think he did really well with BVS as well.
Just
that Lois line. I'm not a woman.
Decisions.
I'm a journalist. Like there's a lot within a lot of little things that have weight behind them, which I love. Like all these years later, you still find things.
And that's right. And I think it's interesting to point out that for everyone who says Chris Terrio sucks, he made the BVS script so dark, or Zack Snyder made the BVS script so dark, Chris Terrio has essentially just come out and said, well, it wasn't actually me who did that. These were the points that needed to be in the movie that Warner Brothers mandated. Batman would try and kill Superman. There's all these points, and
he would brand Lex at the end.
Yeah, and then the fact that, and I got to respect Chris Terrio for saying, well, if he's doing this shit at the start and you want to see growth, if he's branding them at the end, then there is no growth.
What have we learned?
And what have we learned? Exactly. And, there's a lot of that. And as we were saying before, the I'm not a woman, I'm a journalist line was taken directly from a journalist who was killed in Syria, I think, which, again, it's really fascinating to hear. But the fact that he felt like it was vandalized, and again, I like this quote. I think you're right that the title rubbed people the wrong way. He said, I heard it and I thought it sounds self-important and clueless in a way, tone deaf. The intention of the film was to do something interesting and dark and complex. Not quite as Las Vegas bust 'em up WWE match. And he said somewhere here, and I'm just trying to look for the actual quote, but he essentially was saying that what their entire thing they did with their marketing, between naming it Batman vs. Superman, sending all of the marketing to be around the fight and making you feel like it was going to be this bigger thing when that's not what the movie was, had essentially was setting the film up to fail from a marketing perspective, because people weren't going to get what they were expecting. I can see that.
Two little theories. I got like one is that the fact that the year it came out, which is also Civil War, and Civil War, yeah, it's the comic book name title, but it's also the big insinuation that there's going to be beef within the movie. So you think, oh look, I'm going to get to see all my heroes fighting each other. The other thing was the little I Am Legend kind of Easter egg all those years ago on the billboard.
Yeah.
Like 100% that had to have a little bit of sway within it, because that movie was also, if I'm not mistaken, a Warner Brothers or something kind of release.
Yeah.
Like, it's trying to come full circle on that. I can see why people were kind of campaigning for it. Looking back on it now, I didn't think of it necessarily until Chris came out and said it blatant like that. But, it was a bit of a self-important title, I think.
Yeah, and again, nothing to do with the movie, particularly the Ultimate Edition, as he says. They spend all this money on the effects. The last thing they're going to cut out is all the punch 'em up stuff. They're going to just cut out all the motivation, which is exactly what we saw. All the motivation for all of that going on, which is why people who have seen Batman vs. Superman and hated it either don't want to watch it again, or they watch the Ultimate Edition and they go, oh, wow, this is better than I remembered. And it's because suddenly you understand why all of this stuff's happening.
But I also don't understand that, because yes, it was a dumbed down version, but people fucking love Fast and the Furious. You watch it and nothing actually happens except like that shit. But like, what was the problem with it then? I mean, there's so much dumb stuff that happens in that.
I think it was a snowball and pile-on effect. Personally, I managed to get advanced screening tickets to Batman vs. Superman. I managed to get it and get in before the critic embargo. So I'd seen the film everyone that was there with me was like, that film was awesome. And then the next day, the critics' embargoes come out and everyone's ragging on it. And then it's tear it down as much as possible. And then from there, every person I spoke to was going, that movie sucked. How could you like that film?
I saw someone post it on Twitter a week or so ago of all these screenshots of the same like statement from like 100 different 100 different ones just going like just BVS sucks. It's just like, and it was happening everywhere, and for some reason
it's like the sad rainy
takes one to know one, man. I guess that's why they thought that Snyder had bots like when it was trending so much.
Well, the other thing to point out too is that I've seen a lot of these things from people who have said like Zack Snyder's Batman vs Superman is going to be so great. Batman vs Superman was fantastic. Saw it at the movies, really loved it. And then like months later, the same person just like trashing the movie, and their tweets are like, and it's all it is again, it's that pile-on effect. It's everyone around me says that it's bad, so I'm not going to admit that I liked it, because if I admit that I like it, I look like an idiot. And I think this is what is so great about the Snyder Cut community and everything that came out is, you know, like I had a few people I knew who liked Batman vs Superman and that I'd speak to about it, but it was pretty quiet. You know, there wasn't a lot of people I knew that really liked it, and I was showing friends the Ultimate Edition and that sort of thing. But it wasn't until the Snyder Cut, and suddenly we're all coming together and going, no, that narrative is fucking bullshit.
It's just all it involved was us actually speaking out, because we just took it last time. It was just
exactly
took it.
Exactly.
I feel really.
I remember, like after BVS, like after each movie, I normally go online and check out a couple of reviews, see what people are thinking, and it was so negative. Like, there are 10 reasons why Jesse Eisenberg is the wrong Lex Luthor and all this, and then you actually go, like I actually thought it was good. What's wrong with everyone?
And I think that, like, I'll go back to it. Breaking Bad had ended, and everybody wanted fucking Bryan Cranston. I love Bryan Cranston, but he didn't need to be in that role. Like, when they were fan casting him because he was the only villain bald guy at the time from a critically acclaimed series, I was
Strong,
like, cool. Yeah, and I was like, cool. I would be totally on board. When they cast Jesse Eisenberg, I was like, weird choice, but okay. When I watched it, loved it. Yeah, exactly.
This is the difference between when you review a movie, taking what you personally wanted out of the equation and thinking of how well did the director execute. Because then once you do that, you look at the film differently and you think, okay, let's take my preference out. I didn't get. If you sit on that side of the fence, I didn't get the trunks. Okay, am I still able to accept what's going on? Is the essence there? You know, is it communicated? So.
And that's why I quite enjoy Falcon and Winter Soldier, because you dogpile it so much. I go, oh, it's actually not that bad.
I think it's I think just on that, like, it's the same reason you look through the reviews of Zack Snyder's Justice League on Rotten Tomatoes, and half of them are just like, oh, this is just a win for toxic fandom, and you're like, did you watch the film, or did you just one-star it because you don't like the fans? Which I truly believe a lot of it is. So, I mean, from that Chris Terrio article, all it is proof that Warner Brothers has been fucking with movies from a long time beforehand. Yeah. It was before Zach, before Chris got involved.
And it's quite interesting too. Like, I had a friend who read the article and was like, but he still wrote Rise of Skywalker, and I'm like, if
the same thing happened,
Rise of Skywalker wasn't messed with, like, particularly after reading this, and it's Disney, and there was actually more stars calling out Disney than there was calling this out. So you can't have a BVS script v Rise of Skywalker. Oh yeah, nah, like, that's the same range.
I think
exactly.
Star Wars is so lucky to have such a devoted fan base and so much money because of Disney. Because if they didn't have Disney money, Star Wars would have just gone away, just like the MonsterVerse and all those other things. Projects SnyderVerse failed at Sony because they went bankrupt. Because to fuck up that bad with the whole JJ trilogy, and then and whatever else happened, that would be the end of it. Like, You wouldn't get another shot at
Absolutely.
it. Now they've got a kind of resurrection with the TV animated character route rather than the overarching kind of story. But they're fucking lucky, man, because
Absolutely.
look what we've just gone through.
What's that? Look at
like what we've just gone through in terms of trying to have a universe built, and like, where are the TV series and all the other things? Where are the second chances? Like, we've just seen a half chance and we're not getting anything else. Like Star Wars, I can't even count how many.
Fuck that. I don't believe that we're not getting anything else statement. I don't believe that in the slightest. Faith, Alfred. Faith.
Look, I think it will come, but it's not without a fucking fight. And it just feels like
I need to get more sound bites.
I want it, but first thing first, I'm a realist. There's just so much to move. Like, again, not only do you need to get the green light, but again, it's aligning everyone's schedules with what they've got. So, geez, I want the shit out of it, but yeah, it's a different beast compared to. I'm underselling it, but recreating some visual effects on essentially a completed movie.
Because what, there were like some little compromises that had to be made, don't you think? Like having to reuse Superman landing in Africa for the ending scene, and the shots of Gal that were kind of repurposed. Like, I don't want, if it comes at that, like if that's what it takes to get these done, it's just like, look, I just make it an animated thing or make it a book, because I don't want to watch again my favorite director or my favorite kind of characters just be kind of hamstrung like that again.
Messed with, yeah. I mean, it just keeps happening, and I just can't deal with Warner Brothers at this point.
They'll be like, okay, Terrio, do you want to come back? Ray Fisher, do you want to come back? Wagner, do you want to come back? Everyone else who was, probably fucked with that don't want to speak out, your makeup artists, your other people. Like what Ray Fisher came out and said, Ray's barber. So it's like, you've got to get them on side. So unless they're going, we'll come back, but we are just working under Debbie and Zach, like they rule it, or else, they've got
Leto coming back and Affleck coming back after he openly said, I fell out of love with the character. Like, I don't for one second believe it. Like, because you look at that interview he did when he kind of recites going through all of his previous roles, and he's like, I kind of lost interest and I wanted somebody else that it meant the world to go out and tackle it. I don't really think that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, the dude has a bat cave in his fucking doorway.
Yeah.
He has a bat cave entrance in his doorway.
Easy to lose interest in the direction in which the character was heading.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is back on the table.
And specifically for Zach, like Leto, I know he wanted to come back theoretically, like one day, but like, like he came back to Zach to do this one scene, and who knows what the budget was, who knows how the conversation went down. He wasn't even technically allowed to do it, and he made it happen.
So, I mean, I guess going back off that, and I'm going to want to address this this comment from Ash here, but this is basically how we all act.
He'll be here, Alfred, I know it.
What makes you so sure?
Faith, Alfred. Faith.
I love that.
You make me cry.
I love it. So good. So good.
I love that Man still has a little moment too when he's in the church and he's like, what should I do? And he's like, sometimes all it takes is a leap of faith and then the trust comes later. And that's just like, come on, there's so many arcs that kind of come full circle within this. It's so awesome.
So, I mean, going back to that.
Blue Beetle's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Zatanna.
I have faith. I'm keen to see Blue Beetle. Again, diversity is something that I'm on board with Warner Brothers. And, if they're going to do Blue Beetle, again, it doesn't have to be at the expense of the SnyderVerse.
It was like we were saying last week, like, it's not just one or the others. Give us all of it. But it was like with the Trench. Yeah, I'd watch a Trench film, but like, can you get your main characters in order?
Yeah, first? Absolutely.
And you've got that opportunity. Like what Ash is saying, Justice Con, it's a possibility. Is it the AT Investors Call? Yeah, is it the upcoming the next DC fandom that they release? Like, I think we get an announcement. It's going to be at an event. It's not going to be
just a random
Zach on
announcement.
Twitter one day going, "Oh yeah, by the way, got greenlit." Like, whenever these events come up, like that's when we've got to keep an eye out on stuff.
So I guess going off that, yeah. Do you think something like that will happen at JusticeCon? Do you think Zach will turn around and say, "This is what we did"? Do you reckon we'll get some sort of numbers? Do you reckon, I feel like from now, like my thoughts are Zach at JusticeCon this weekend is not going to talk much on Zack Snyder's Justice League. I reckon
I think it's
focus Army of the Dead.
All streams ahead with Army of the Dead. Even if the deal's done, we won't get anything until Army's had its space to be released. And
kind of like the Wonder Woman situation.
And you know what?
You got to pay respect.
It's fine. I'm on board. I want everybody to support Army of the Dead as much as we do. I'd love to see Army of the Dead hit like 1 million tweets. That would be amazing. That sort of thing. I want to go hard.
I'll definitely show up for it. The cast looks good. The concept looks good. Original story, cinematography, kind of like a Nightmare, kind of 50mm dream sequence kind of lens.
Yeah, I mean,
what more can you want?
Just give me zombies. Like, I just need more zombie content. I've got The Walking Dead. Haven't had a good zombie thing since. I'm gonna say, World War Z was all right, but the 28 days, 28 weeks later,
I'm playing Days Gone. I'm playing Days Gone at the moment. So that's my zombie fix. I'm not a huge zombie guy, but Days Gone on PS5 is awesome. Is very cool. A couple of things I wanted to point out. Zack Snyder's Justice League 4K, Blu-ray, DVD, Steelbook edition. Everything went live today. JB Hi-Fi Sanity. Get the pre-orders in. I was discussing this earlier in a group chat.
Thank you.
Is that somebody 27th of May? 27th of May, is that
yes, and there's a Steelbook coming out in June. May, the release date for the actual 4K. I have purchased and pre-ordered both. I noticed a couple of people in a group chat that I'm in saying they're going to pre-order one and just go in and buy the other one on the day. If you are going to get both, pre-order them both. I used to work at JB Hi-Fi. I do know that how much hype around a pre-order, it does make a big difference. And they report all of that back. So if you are going to buy it anyway, pre-order it. It will make more of an impact than if you were to just go in and buy it on the day one, because you are so keen for
early
it.
Numbers, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So make sure that make sure that you get that sorted, because it does. It makes a hell of a lot of difference. One question we got here: do we know if Army of the Dead will get cinema release in Australia? I think it will. Because there was a discussion last week and Zach said something about coming to Netflix and theaters. I saw it and theaters.
That might just be in America, to be honest.
But why? Because think about it, like, yes, it's coming to who is the one place where theaters aren't really doing that well right now? In America.
It is a good point. I mean, it is.
Every film is every place is trying to get as much content out into the cinema that they can sell as box office at the moment, because and if you can do a side-by-side release, if you want to watch it at home on Netflix, you can, but I'll go see it at the cinema. I'll spend the money and then I'll probably watch it again at home.
That's where I think, okay, Godzilla, there's one example of it, but this is Netflix. Did The Irishman get a cinematic release?
Yeah, it did.
In Australia?
It didn't do too well. Yeah, it did do too well. I think it was like, because we were talking about this when we thought, this is before the Justice League was announced, and I was talking to Marty about it. It did like, I don't know, maybe less than 20 mil. But yeah, we're talking about a 3.5 hour movie there.
That's why I think
exactly. And not only that, but I know that in Australia, The Irishman got a limited release. It wasn't at like every cinema. I was living in Melbourne at the time, and there was a specific cinema that did like indie releases and that sort of stuff.
Like a Dendy's.
They got it, so it wasn't like a traditional release. It was more, of just the smaller. So that could have affected it. But again, 3.5 hours is a different vibe to it. I think, a 2-hour action zombie flick is going to do well. And now we know Zack Snyder has a built-in audience. If you release in cinemas, people will go. They are trying to capitalize on the Snyder Cut community and capitalize away Netflix, because if you are going to give Zack a chance to do exactly what he wants and straight up not be pricks about it, then at this point, I would love to see more Zack Snyder DC content, 100%. But I'm also totally on board with dude getting supported by the studio he's fucking working for.
I was listening. I don't think it'll happen, but you make a good point. If it does, hey, I'll be stoked. Just because I don't think it'll happen doesn't mean I don't want it to happen. And it would be silly at least not to look into, given the current circumstances of the opportunities we've got in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. I was listening to a podcast with Ted Sarandos the other day, who is the chief content creator of at Netflix, or the co-content. Anyway, he's high up at Netflix. He was being interviewed by Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes. He's been their boss for a long time. Yeah, it was a good listen. He's been their boss because obviously when Netflix went to streaming, Arrested Development was one of the first products that they bought and then resold. But he was talking specifically about they got into studio interference, and he was saying stuff about how he's heard horror stories from people that he's worked with about studio interference. And then later they were going, we're doing our first like $200 million like blockbuster. And I'm going, I can bet I know what one that is. I don't know how much Army of the Dead. Army of the yeah. I mean, they're saying 70 to 90 million. So look, that's also, it could potentially not be it, but I could 100% see that being the case. The fact that he's specifically going on about how studio interference is so bad and how they go, and like Netflix's motto is, we've hired these people to do a job because we trust them to do the job. So either we give them notes that are sort of optional that we think may improve the product, or we don't give notes at all, which I think is great. They trust their creators, and it looks like Zach is going to have a nice long career with a big series. We've already got an Army of the Dead, the prequel, and then the animated series coming before.
He's got ideas for King Arthur as well, so I wonder if that would go to Netflix as well.
And he's got to have a bunch more original scripts. He's got to. So
you think he'd recast Charlie Hunnam as King Arthur? Meta.
Will it be King Arthur?
Will it be King Arthur?
Yeah, it was a cool movie though. I liked it. Which article was it that kind of mentioned? I think it was the Ray one that was like saying, how do I tell an investor that their favorite character or their little kid doesn't get to see their favorite animated character say "booyah" in a movie? Like you have to please the investor.
Was it John Berg's comment? I think.
Yeah.
To Ray Fisher, he's like, he took him out for dinner. Very expensive booyah.
Yeah, and then and what's funny about that is that I saw somebody comment saying, "Head of AT&T, my child really likes the cartoon, and in this movie, Cyborg didn't say booyah. Yeah. Clean out your desk, John. You're done."
Yeah.
As if that conversation was ever going to happen.
Like Terrio's other comment, how it's like, so they parade us in front of these investors. And I had a conversation with this one guy who you could describe as if you were casting douchebag one. It's like, how great is that? Terrio Unleashed.
Yeah, he just went off. It was a very good article. For those who are unaware, I'm going to quickly run through these articles. If you haven't checked them out, Ray Fisher, a Hollywood Reporter article. Ray Fisher opens up about Justice League, Joss Whedon, and Warner's. I don't believe some of these people are fit for leadership. We have also talked about the Chris Terrio Vanity Fair article, which is a very good read. Justice League screenwriter Chris Terrio is super pissed off. Check that out. We briefly spoke on the IndieWire article, Inside Justice League, with cinematographer who shot and fought for Zack Snyder's version, Fabian Wagner. Check that out. We have been the Kent Farm Podcast. We're going to call it a night. I am going to be off next week, but one of these boys will likely take over. I'm keen to watch the chat and see what goes on. So thank you all for joining, and yeah, until next time, let's take it out with the outro.
I've been ready from the jump. Tell me anything, but never tell me that I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm on. You can bet I've been above. You can never see me like I'm John. Seen it on the song. Yeah, we kicking in the whip, boy. Then boom, boom. Invisible like Bitcoin, but all around we taking over the world. I'm making home with the girl, head to tail like a flip coin. You can take it how you want. I've been up having fun. Yeah, baby, this ain't a disjoint.